How's everybody feeling this morning? uh, as a stream and a very small little community that we've built up here, we talk about politics and and what's going on. And well, you saw it about 12 hours ago. Ooh man. So listen, I want to start by watching something real quick, because I think it's important to set the predicate for the implications of what's going on right now. So let's watch this together and then we'll discuss.
I have had a couple podcasts with him, and people have had like weird conversations with me about it. And
yeah.
I've said, this is one of the things that I've said. I was like, look, the guy's mostly fun.
Yeah.
Mostly fun.
I started this gang called the Proud Boys. And
The Proud Boys?
The Proud Boys.
What's Proud Boys about?
We will kill you. That's the Proud Boys in a nutshell. We will kill you. We look nice. We seem soft. We have boys in our name. But like Bill the Butcher and the Bowery Boys, we will assassinate you. Now, part of the reason I agree to do the talk is because I'm allowed to bring all my guys. And we can fight our way in and fight our way out.
Beating the shit out of these guys. I think it's our job to do it.
And the cops just turn a blind eye. If you're wearing a MAGA hat, as Sal is right now. Sal's in the studio, folks.
Oh my God, this is Sal Cipolla. Where are you from? On here. Wow, you came a long way.
If you're wearing a MAGA hat, and some guy with a slightly punk demeanor comes up to you and says, "Hey, are you Sal or are you pro-Trump?" Choke him. Trust your instincts. Don't listen to what he has to say. Choke him. If I do a video where I say, how about we start throwing bricks? Is that legal? You can't call for violence on a specific person, but can you say they're throwing bricks? We should throw bricks. Can you call for violence generally? Because I am.
Fighting solves everything. We need more violence from the Trump people, Trump supporters. Choke a motherfucker, choke a bitch, choke a tranny. Get your fingers around the windpipe.
I want violence. I want punching in the face. I'm disappointed in Trump supporters for not punching enough.
Get a fucking gun.
Get ready to blow someone's fucking head off. I've even killed people in my dreams. That's how awesome my gun is.
Get in trouble, get arrested, get fired. Let's all get in this together. They can't kill us all.
I got green tips, man. Those go through at least 3 bodies.
Oh, beautiful. Plop. I love the way he falls on his ass.
They said, you want to go? I said, yeah, I want to fucking go. And I punched him in the face. And then Coulter emailed me later and she goes, conservatives never punched anyone in the face. Finally, things are turning around.
And then Malsberg goes, you're not advocating violence, are you? And I go, I absolutely am. It's a wonderful, effective thing.
This is a fucking war.
I started this gang called the Proud Boys.
The guy's mostly fun.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think you can hear me. Oh my god, I've been turned down this whole time. My bad. So, yeah, what I was saying is, since the Proud Boys kind of got mentioned for the first time nationally, and most normal people haven't been paying attention to who they are, I thought that it would be important to look at their leader, the guy who started the thing, see what he's saying, get a good representation of what his audience is hearing from him, and then see what the reaction of that group and people like that was after the debate, just so that we have some context. So Andrew Anglin, the publisher of the Daily Stormer — the Daily Stormer is a white supremacist website that promoted the deadly Unite the Right rally attended by white nationalists in Charlottesville in 2017. Okay, so Unite the Right is literally the reason that Joe Biden and Donald Trump were having that conversation during the debate last night. So this is completely a one-for-one connection. Says he got, quote, shivers during last night's Trump-Biden debate. Okay. He didn't condemn anyone, and he didn't tell them to stand down. He told them to stand back and to stand by. See, he is, the inflection is his. What that appears to me to indicate is wait until I give the signal. I got shivers. I still have shivers. He is telling people to stand by, as in get ready for war. He's not going to let these people just roll over him with this fraud plot. He's going to tell his people to go out into the streets. He was asked to agree not to tell people to go out in the streets, and he wouldn't. Probably this is going to end with the country breaking up, which is the exact thing that I wanted to happen. But you all need to understand this is real life and this is happening. In a month's time, your president could ask you to go out into the streets and defend your country. You need to be ready to do that. Here's David Duke at davidduke.com. Presidential debate. Trump dares to refuse to condemn white people for the Antifa and Bolshevik violence. Trump stood tall in refuting the lie that white nationalists are the problem in America. Okay, so that covers the stakes that we're talking about, right? And that covers why you should be concerned about why he said that. That all being said, man, am I glad that this is not my fucking problem. I distinctly remember being told by a lot of people that this was the way to beat Trump, that Biden was the strongest candidate, that was going to have the best arguments, that was going to be able to stand on the debate stage and craft a message that would defeat Trump. And that he would be uniquely positioned to do so because he wasn't a far left socialist. No. He would appeal to moderate Republicans and convince, quote unquote, the center of the country to unite everybody. This is what I was told. I was told that we could not have Bernie Sanders. I was told that we could not have Bernie Sanders as a candidate for months because Donald Trump would call him a socialist and the entire country would freak out and we would lose. And it was an existential threat, and therefore we really had to get serious, and that's why we can't have Bernie Sanders and we can't have leftist policies, because we gotta have Joe Biden. He's the most capable of saving us. I was also told last night that Joe Biden does not need my vote. That Joe Biden is not interested in the vote of the left, which may be true. It may be entirely possible that Joe Biden could win this election based on just the fact that he's not Trump and the fact that he's going to, calm the waters a little bit. That is entirely possible, and I hope that it works out. I really do. I will vote for him. I will vote for him because I have a strategic view on how to use my vote. But I understand people who won't, especially when he was given multiple opportunities on national television last night to say things that would have ingratiated him with anybody on the left. He just went, no, fuck that. I don't stand for that. And so I say to that, okay. It's not my problem. It's not my problem. It has nothing to do with me. And so, good luck. I hope it works out. It's going to be hilarious to watch. But imagine, if you will, for just a moment, and then we'll talk about what actually happened. But we all experienced what actually happened. I'm more interested in talking about what could have happened at this very moment, which is that we could have had a debate between that baboon, that fucking idiot. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, if you're still watching this stream and you think that that dude is in any way an option for any sort of political movement or any sort of like standard of living increase for like normal people, being interested in like the good of America or the safety of our citizens as a whole, you can just bounce. This dude is clearly an idiot. Like, he's clearly, like, he's spiraling because he's losing. He knows he's losing. And so his strategy last night, which in 2016 would have been a winning strategy because this is what people wanted, but now he's the leader of the free world. And it's very jarring for people to see him roll out a strategy of, I'm just going to steamroll Joe Biden. I'm just going to keep talking and keep talking and keep talking, so that Joe Biden never has a chance to say anything, and hopefully I'll force him into bumbling and fumbling. Excuse me. Into bumbling and fumbling and getting off his game. And he'll meander around the topics and mishear what Chris Wallace is saying and misspeak and stumble and bumble and stutter and all that, because I'll constantly be just barraging him with shit to respond to. Which, okay, that's a strategy, but people don't want to see that from the leader of the free world. I'm sorry. Not to mention, man, I mean, look, if you want to argue that the media misrepresents Trump and that the media puts him in a light of like, and of course this is a ridiculous argument, but I'm playing it out for you. If you want to argue that the media misrepresents Trump when they report on it, and that the real Trump is XYZ and that's why you support him, we got an hour and a half, 95 minutes last night of uninterrupted Trump. Of Trump as he wanted to be, because nobody debate prepped him. There's been plenty of reporting on the fact that he did not prep for this debate with his staff. You got real, live, direct feed of who Trump is. Now, in order to leave that interaction with him and still feel like he is at all a good person, you have to take several things into account. The first one that comes to mind is you have to know in your own mind that he is aware of the fact that he is the president of the United States in the middle of several unprecedented crises, and still ostensibly the leader of the free world. He has to know that in his own mind, right? Knowing that, and knowing, I mean, he has to know because we know, I know, the media knows, people around him know. He has to know that we are coming up to an election that could, I don't want to be like dramatic or anything, but could put us in a position where there is violence in the streets, right? He has to know that. And the fact that he knows those two things, and he does not know that the best thing for him to do, the best thing for the country, the best thing for the Republican Party, the best thing for you as a voter of his, if you're a supporter of his, the best thing for him to do is to come out and say, no, I don't want any violence. Listen, those white supremacist people, right? Because what vote would this have lost him to say? The white supremacists are voting for Trump regardless. The actual white supremacist people, they're voting for him regardless, whether he says they're bad or not. And if he says they're bad, they're going to write it off and say like, well, of course he has to say we're bad. No big deal. We'll vote for him anyway. Of course, because he's advancing their interests. That's the whole game, baby. So in this case, right, Donald Trump knows these two things and is given the opportunity. Sir, will you just denounce white supremacists and tell them not to come out and intimidate people? He not only doesn't say, no, I don't want any violence and I don't want anybody to do that. He doubles down and says, I hope that they'll be out watching the polls. I hope that they will be there to ensure that there is election integrity. That's electioneering. That is a federal crime. Number one. I mean, that's just the first thing that I have to say about that. And like, look, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, these people on the nominal left, the Democrats, if you will, have said not to accept the results of the election. Of course, right? There is a lot of problems with trust in our electoral system this election. But to out and out, to just straight out, when given the opportunity, you're the president. When given the opportunity to not have prepared an answer to this because you know it's going to be asked, and that answer should be something like, and look, I don't want Trump to win. I'm just saying that, like, if the fact that he didn't say something like this did not make you go, oh wait, holy shit, what am I a party to right now? I don't know what to tell you. Like, you go on the unreachable list for me. He should have said something like, look, man, I can't even believe that I'm going to put this into insane, like, Trump talking points, but he could have maintained all of his bullshit and denounced this shit and just said, look, I think all the ballots are fraudulent, this mail-in ballot shit is crap, but we are going to ensure through the Federal Elections Commission that the election goes off without a hitch. We're going to make sure that we get an accurate count. There's not going to be any problems, and if there is any problems, then we're going to step in and figure out how to fix them on the federal level. I obviously don't agree with white supremacists. I'm not a racist. I'm trying to bring America together. I've done more for black people, yada 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 yada, Abraham Lincoln. But no, he just flat out, when given the opportunity by a guy from Fox News, who some of you will not remember, was hired by Fox News at the time to lend an air of bipartisan credence to Fox News, to give Fox News more legitimacy for their daytime shows. Chris Wallace, a Fox News employee, asked Donald Trump to disavow white supremacy, and he could not do it. He's painted himself into a corner. He can't do it because now he knows those are the only people that are going to show up to suppress the vote. So I think that it's important to understand before we talk about anything else about the debate, and I want to talk more about, like, you know, this no longer being my problem. I think that it's important to understand that if that's going to be the biggest takeaway, then we need to understand the actual implications of that. Not the pearl clutching, oh my God, can you believe Trump said that at a presidential debate? All of the norms are being violated. Not that. I'm talking about actually the, like, physical violence that we could be looking at, just the threat to people's safety in a democracy, in a functioning society. I mean, this is failed state shit. This is failed state terrorist insurgent type shit. Intimidating people at the polls. And if you don't think that that's going to happen, you're okay. Then you, again, unreachable list. I'm sorry. Of course they're going to do this. Everybody involved with them is saying they're going to do this. Like, at some point we have to start like, at some point you've crossed the Rubicon. These people have to be taken seriously at some point. If you're going to run around screaming about how Antifa tweeted about something, or if you go to Antifa.com, it goes to Joe Biden's website or whatever the fuck, then you have to listen to what these people are saying also. Like, I'm sorry, you can't have space in your room for, or you can't have space in your brain for both things. These people are for real, for real. These people are absolutely for real, for real. So, anyway, I think that it's important to understand those stakes as they sit. So, that being said. Okay, so this is Frank Luntz. Frank Luntz is like a very famous pollster guy. If you don't know who he is, he's basically like the guy that all the Republicans have always used. He's a Republican pollster. He came up with the term climate change to replace global warming. That's how we got to talking about climate change instead of global warming, because he did a bunch of focus group work that basically explained that global warming was a scary term. His focus groups explained to him that when they heard global warming, that was scary because it sounded like impending doom. But when he changed it and said, no, we're going to call it climate change, then the responses that they got back from that was, well, that sounds fairly normal, like it'll change, but then change is always temporary and it goes back to normal, and it makes people feel better about it on a psychological level. So this is the kind of demon goblin that Frank Luntz is. So he tweeted about the debate last night. Let's just go through a few things. Trump should be debating Biden, not the moderator. He's currently in control, but I'm not sure if sniping at Chris Wallace helps him. So I've seen this, like, this has been a point that's been started on my feeds today, which is like, even so early this morning, which is like, Chris Wallace is in the tank. Chris Wallace was beaten up on Trump. I didn't see Chris Wallace do anything, or I didn't see Chris Wallace have the ability to do anything to stop him. His plan was just, no, I'm going to run all 95 minutes, and I'm either going to talk so much and steamroll everybody so much that Joe Biden will not get to speak, or I will be talking so much and hitting him with so much nonsense that when he does speak, he will look like a stuttering idiot. He will look like he can't put his thoughts together. I mean, I'm really going to rattle his cage. Because here was the problem that the Trump campaign created for themselves as going into the debate. The problem that they created for themselves was they set up Joe Biden, and they tried to walk this back over the last week and a half. If you look at their messaging, a lot of their messaging has been like, well, of course Joe Biden's a competent debater. You know, we saw him debate Paul Ryan. He's been in politics for 47 years. I'm sure that he's going to be fine at the debate. They've been saying that for the last week. But before that, of course, Trump has been going to his rallies, and his surrogates have been going on TV, and they have been saying things like, well, I mean, I don't know how Biden's keeping it together. I mean, he's clearly addled. He clearly has dementia. He clearly has brain problems, which he does. Of course. But they're saying that, like, you know, he can hardly string two sentences together. He's just hiding in his basement. He never makes any public remarks. He puts a lid on. He puts a lid on at 9:20 every morning, folks. Right? That's been the whole thing for months and months and months and months and months. And then they realized, like, 2 weeks ago, holy shit, we've told everybody that Joe Biden can't string consecutive sentences together. And if he shows up and he's actually good, then that's all he has to do. Like, we've set the parameters for winning as just like, oh, well, Joe sounded alive and reasonable and like he could, you know, put a sentence together and connect words in order without having a stroke. And so, like, He exceeded the very, very low bar that the Trump campaign set. So that was a mistake on their part, because I think that just by Joe Biden sheerly not just completely falling apart and talking about record players or laundry detergent or something like that in the middle of a question about like racial justice or climate change, then that ended up being a win because the Trump campaign framed the issue around like whether or not he has brainworms, which again, he does. It says, my group of undecided voters don't mind Trump challenging Biden, but they want to hear the questions from Chris Wallace. Trump is pushing too hard. Yeah, I think people, like normal Americans who, A, haven't decided, which I don't think there are very many of those, or B, have decided on Trump, but are now thinking like, man, do I really want to go vote? Like, I'll support Trump, but do I really want to sign off on this? Because people weirdly identify their vote personally. Like, they take it very personally, what their vote ends up being. So, I think that if you are buying the story that, like, Biden is the only thing standing between us and Trump insanity, then you're voting regardless. That's done, right? That's signed, sealed, delivered. You've probably already mailed in your ballot, or you're about to go vote early or whatever. Like, you're a well-educated voter. Well, I don't mean well-educated. I just mean like you are a well-conditioned voter. You know how to go and vote. You've already been part of the process before, and you're just washing your hands of it. And I did my job. Bye. But if you're a Trump voter, I think there's two kinds of those. I think there's the kind that's like, yeah, brother, we're going to own the libs. We're going to own the libs, brother. And I'm going to go vote on election day with my gun or whatever. Like, yeah, that's a good amount of people. But that population is not expandable. It's not, that population is not getting bigger. Whereas the other half is like, well, I'm a Republican because I don't like the Democrats on social policy, or like I'm like a small business tyrant, and so like I like low taxes and all that kind of stuff, but I still have a soul and I have like a family and I care about what people think about me. And so like, or no, not that I care about what people think about me, but just like I still have a soul, and I'm not going to totally sell it off to this dude who's clearly a man-child and a douchebag. And so what I'll do is I'll just say, yeah, brother, Trump 2020, and then I won't go vote. Like, I'm not going to go out of my way to keep this train rolling. And then I'll just go like, oh, well, I didn't make it to the polls. Shame that he lost, though. Damn it. And I think that number is starting to go up. Anyway, let's keep going. Biden should not have told Trump to shut up. Trump has rattled him, and it's not a good look for Biden. I actually disagree with that. I think that clip of Biden being like, can you just shut up, man, is going to be historically important. Just in the fact that, like, that's going to be what they play 20 years from now when they're talking about this election while the world burns. You know, while they're trying to educate the first generation of zombie children, they're going to be teaching them about this debate, and that's the clip that they will show. And it'll be like, yeah, this is generally what Americans thought. So Frank Luntz is sitting on a Zoom call. I should provide this context. This commentary is from him sitting on a Zoom call with like 20 undecided voters. They say they have not decided who to vote for, which, Jesus Christ, did he pull them out of a cave? Like, where did he find these people? Who is an undecided voter? Who is an undecided voter? If you're going to vote, like, I get being a non-voter. That's different. But if you are going to vote, who is undecided? I don't understand. My group of undecided voters are telling me this is like reality TV, except it's the destruction of America that we're watching. This vicious back and forth is hurting both candidates. Trump is in total control of the debate stage, but he's too rude to win over many new votes. I would like to use this debate to teach my students how to communicate, but I can't. It would be unfair to my students. Zing. There's a specific quote that I want to find. Okay, so the most common voter response I'm hearing so far is, I'm so sad for our country. I think we all were like, you know, if you're not saying like, what a libtard, or oh my god, a Cheeto in the White House, like, if you're not saying one of those two things, then you're just like, oh my god, dude, like, This is so sad. Yeah, so this debate has actually convinced some undecided voters to not vote at all. I mean, think about having a system, right? Where, now, don't get me wrong, dude. I don't think the debates make a damn bit of difference in the election whatsoever. In fact, there's been studies done on this. They make no difference. The debates are statistically irrelevant, historically, any of them. It's kind of like momentum in sports. You know, you hear announcers talk about like, well, the Cowboys have the momentum now because they scored. That's imaginary. There have been studies done on this. Momentum is not a thing. It's just coincidence, and our brain looks for patterns and creates a pattern and goes, oh yeah, that's momentum. Now, momentum, of course, is a science thing, but I'm just saying in sports, not a thing. And it's the same thing with like Jesus. Yeah. Trump is defending himself, but he should be defending America. Biden is at his best when he's visionary, but instead he's fighting for Trump. There was a tweet that I was looking for, though, where he was talking about one of the... Yeah, Ruthie. Ruthie is this... Ruthie is this, like, old-ass lady that's in this group. Yeah, here she is. Ruthie. There she is, from Pennsylvania. Okay, so she says, oh, she says, quote, Trump is acting like a crackhead. And I think, like, debates and really presidential elections in general are just decided by who's cooler. Like, think about it. Go back through history. They're just decided by, like, who wins the, like, prom queen contest. Like, it's basically just homecoming king and queen for the country, though. And so, like, people looked at that. Again, this is my opinion, but I think that if there are any undecided voters left, which again, what fucking cave are they living in? If there are any undecided voters left, then those people are looking at this and simply making an assessment. Because by virtue of being undecided, that means that they haven't been paying attention at all. And so they just started paying attention. And so they are making an assessment based on, like, who is less of a shit show. And who was less of a shit show if you are not a brain-addled, insane person already. And by that, I mean somebody who is excited to vote for either of these people. Then you look at that objectively and you just go, okay, well, I mean, Biden looks like he's 1% more stable. And in the idea of, like, risk mitigation and who I want to, like, have with the nuclear codes, I guess Joe Biden. I don't want either of them, but these are the shit sandwich choices that I'm given. One has mustard on it, though. Ugh, my coffee's getting cold. I need one of these days when I come out here to refill my my electric tea kettle so that I can sit here and keep my shit hot. But whatever. Yeah. So lots of confusion among undecided voters. Wallace allowing Trump unfettered national airtime to cast further doubt on the system, propagating unsubstantiated stories about absentee voting seems problematic. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing about it, right? It's just like, he's getting this shit off on, like, a traditionally, like, of course the debates are dog shit and they don't make a difference, but he's getting this shit off on a traditionally, like, on a historically hallowed ground. and that being like the debate TV time. You know, this is like Kennedy Nixon, you know, like Obama Romney, you know, like big giant historical moments, you know, Clinton Bush in the 90s, you know, like big historical contexts and moments, and like actual turd sandwich word you know, like big giant actual swelling moments of like, oh wait, hold on, there's a distinct difference. This guy gets me and the problems that I have, and this guy doesn't. Now, they're both full of shit, obviously. It's just varying degrees of how full of shit they are. And last night, no one got that at all. You know, and I think it was effective for Trump to just keep going like, you just lost the left. You just lost the left. Because Biden just kept... We knew he was going to do this, right? We knew Biden was going to be like... He's going to stomp on the left. He's going to say shit like, of course I don't support the Green New Deal. Of course I don't support defunding the police. He's going to stomp on the left and completely disregard their issues because they're viewed as too fringe. And then when he loses, or if he loses... which it looks like he's going to win. Let's all just be realistic with the numbers. That doesn't mean don't vote. Still go vote. Still go do your thing. Don't like pretend like we're losing, or pretend, well, we, but pretend like he's losing. But we were told that like, or no, yeah, he's going to step on us, and then after he loses, if he loses, he will be like, well, it's because all these goddamn purity testers. It's because all these goddamn purity test leftists that wouldn't show up and vote for me. Look at all these people that voted for Bernie Sanders that didn't vote for me. So he's going to shit on us anyway. And like I said, I'm so glad that the Democratic Party, as an institution, absolved me of responsibility for this. Millions and millions and millions of people donated small dollar donations, attended rallies of tens of thousands of people, phone banked, organized, knocked doors, created a actual grassroots campaign nationwide. They had operators knocking doors in every state in the primaries, the Bernie campaign. The left got together and organized around an individual with policies that the majority of Americans supported. And the Democratic Party and the people who are entangled with them in our media told us repeatedly, you cannot win an election this way. Yeah, that's all great. We would all love that. Rainbow fairy tales and ponies. But you cannot win an election that way. That's too pie in the sky. That's too fairy dust. That's too... the Republicans will never go for it. No. They'll call you a socialist. They'll call you a socialist, and then you'll lose everybody. Because all Trump has to do is get on stage and call Bernie a socialist, and he says he is. All Trump has to do is go off about how he supported Castro. And then you will lose. Because the American people will hear socialist and they will be scared, and you will lose, and then we will end up with Trump. And do you really want a Cheeto in the White House? Right? And it was nothing but like slow claps on Twitter and just typing the same thing over again, over and over and over again until you get to your tweet limit about how like Elizabeth Warren doesn't owe you anything. Big Daily Show segments about like how Barack Obama was totally justified in leaving office and then just becoming an insane millionaire and giving speeches to banks and going parasailing with Richard Branson and buying a $20 million home in, the wealthiest neighborhood in the country, signing like $1 billion Netflix deal or whatever. We were told by Trevor Noah, oh no, how dare you get mad at a black man for capitalizing on his position. We were told, you cannot win an election this way. The only way that you can win an election is by scraping off some moderate Republicans, bringing the country together at the center, right? And trying to create one big tent, bring in more Republicans, maybe you get a couple of people that don't normally vote because Trump's an existential threat, and then you have your base of mostly college-educated white folks that are going to vote for us anyway. And they're banking on the fact that Hispanic people are still going to vote for them. And they're banking on the fact that black people are still going to vote for them. Even though those people are starting to recognize that the Democrats have never done jack shit after being gifted their vote for 30 years. The material conditions of these people have not changed. In fact, if the Democrats paid attention at all, there was polling done last week of a fairly large sample size of the Latinx population in this country. I'm not sure what the correct term is. That's why I put that in air quotes. Only because I'm not sure exactly who they surveyed, so I'm being broad. Most of them do not identify as people of color. When asked, do you identify as a person of color, the vast majority of them, I think it was like 73% or something, say no. Because it is a similar dynamic to like when the Irish first immigrated to America. Irish people were not considered white when they first immigrated to America. Why? Because whiteness has always been about class, not about actual whiteness. It's a complete construction. But Irish people, when they first immigrated here, were not considered white. They were considered Irish. And then over time, because it helped that they looked white, over time, they accumulated wealth as a group and rose in the class ranks enough. And again, it helped that their skin was white to where they became white people mostly. Like, people consider Irish people white, correct? Somebody help me. What was I saying before the Irish thing? I lost my train of thought. No, seriously though. Oh yeah. So anyway, I was told that and probably you, if you watch this, you probably somewhat agree with me, and you were told, and everybody on Twitter and everybody on Facebook told us, no, the way that you beat this guy is with Joe Biden. And they were so sure of this. They were in fact so sure of this that Barack Obama himself picked up the phone before Super Tuesday and called Pete Buttigieg. Then, if you will remember, the man second in line only to Bernie to be the president. Joe Biden in a distant fourth at this time. Pete Buttigieg, the second most likely human being to be president at that moment, got a personal phone call from Barack Obama, where Barack Obama explained to him that at this point in his political career, he had garnered all of the progress that he possibly could have garnered, and it was time for him to leverage his position as a candidate within the party to drop out, endorse Joe Biden, and take a cabinet position or run for the Senate or something. You've got this big nationwide name now. A lot of people like you. You've got a brand, but you're just not big enough right now, little kid, to be the president. They thought that this was so important, and they thought that this was so that the Joe Biden coalition and the Hillary Clinton Joe Biden strategy was so important that a president got on the phone to make it happen. And there was an unprecedented, coordinated effort. These people showed solidarity. Got to give them credit. To drop out, endorse Joe Biden. I'm sure make all kinds of deals as far as who's going to be in what cabinet position and where's this person going to be appointed and yada, yada, yada. But all drop out, consolidate behind Joe Biden, then use the media narrative of the fact that South Carolina, older, their black population is older and votes more conservatively. Data shows their younger black population votes progressive and voted for Bernie. But the older black population, which outnumbers in South Carolina, and does take a lot of direction from a great political organizer in Senator Clyburn, they decided to swung the state for Joe Biden, which created a media narrative that he was pushing the snowball down the hill, right? This was all a coordinated effort. We all recognize that. We all know that. I'm just recapping it for you. So, in response to us as a group, us being the left, the Bernie movement, saying, no, look, we got this. And the way that we got this is we can self-fund. We can self-fund, we can self-advertise, we can self-organize. We are supporting policies that the majority of Americans want. Things like Medicare for all, free college, ending the wars, all that kind of stuff. And we are going to win this argument on the basis of policy and ideas. We're not going to get into a mud-throwing match with Trump. We're not going to sit and bicker with him. We're going to talk about the policies. We're going to talk about the issues. We're going to actually materially change people's lives. And the answer that the Democratic Party had for us was, no, you can't win that way. We got this. So it's not my problem. That as somebody on the left, that was what I took out of last night's debate. Two things. One, wait, you said you got this. You were very sure. And you don't got this. Like, yeah, Trump is constantly going to, like, shove his own foot into his mouth and make himself look like a moron. That's absolutely the case. But if that's what you call we got this, bro, we are fucked. You know, and when given the opportunity on multiple occasions last night for Joe Biden to talk about a policy, to talk about how he is going to materially change people's lives so that we can avoid the conditions that I've been talking about, which is, yeah, cool, we get Biden in 2020. But then 2024, nothing has changed for people, and they are more open to a worse Trump. Because we voted for Joe Biden, and it's still shit. And Joe Biden was given multiple opportunities last night to talk about materially changing people's lives, and he would not do it. He was given specific policy programs to talk about that people like. People like the Green New Deal. People like Medicare for all. Yeah, Republicans don't. Old people don't. But regular, average Americans like these things. They are excited by them. They want to vote for them. Do you know what wins elections more than anything in the country? More than any politician, more than any consultant, more than any staff, more than any party. progressive ballot initiatives. These are local ballot initiatives about things like marijuana or school funding, infrastructure spending. When people are given progressive policies to vote for in their localities, they do it. Because people aren't dumb. The American people get treated like they're fucking stupid. Like, in what sort of a real democracy? In what sort of a real democracy with intelligent people living in it would what happened last night be considered a debate? They didn't talk about policy. They didn't talk about a plan. Nobody mentioned any sort of... It was all just about decency scolding and whose son did what. I mean, this is just like bread and circuses while the people starve. This is a failed state. This is a completely failed state. There was no like I said, there was no distinction about policy. I mean, the thing about it is Hillary wasn't for anything either. But when they had debates, she talked about policy a little bit. Not much. She mostly talked about how bad Trump was, which left her open to catastrophic failure because he just went, yeah, well, okay, but, I'm pretty sure she murdered somebody. And then it just became a conversation on who was worse, and people uniquely hated Hillary. And so now it's just like, we're not having any conversations about fixing people's lives, and so it will get worse because people are being disengaged and alienated, man. We talked about this the other day with the article that we read about, like, people sitting on Reddit, on the unemployment subreddit, like begging for food and shit. And of course that's going to create conditions where people are volatile. That's going to create conditions where people are like more coercible into picking sides. More coercible into like, oh, well, the Proud Boys are out with all their weapons. I'm going to go out there and defend people. Or I'm going to go out there too. I'm sorry, man. I mean, like I said, that is a you problem. That is a Democratic Party problem. Because as far as I'm concerned, they have bet their brand on this. They put it all on like, no. The way to do this is to run somebody down the middle. And the next time, say Trump wins. Okay, let's game this out a bit. Say Trump wins, which could happen. It could totally happen. If he wins, then we are going to be in a position in 2024 where we're going to need to select someone to run against him. Now, if that's the case, he's going to find, Mike Pence is going to run, or Tom Cotton is going to run, or Ted Cruz is going to run, or Lindsey Graham is going to run, or whatever, right? But they will be personally endorsed and carried along by Trump, and therefore they will have the sworn allegiance of the base, because Trump owns the base. Now, because of things like coronavirus, climate change, just general immiseration, the drug addiction crisis that we have in this country, there will be less of those people. But still, he will own the base. And he'll just hand that over to the next person that's going to run. Who are the Democrats in that case going to run against Trump? Because who in their right mind is going to buy the story again Who is going to hear somebody on MSNBC or CNN or something go, no, you don't understand. Sure, it would be great to have health care for everybody. It would be great to stop going to war endlessly. That would be awesome. But we can't do that. The Republicans will never let us. And so you have to run somebody that is right down the middle and is just going to incrementally change things without upsetting anybody. Who's going to buy that? They barely were able to sell it this time after Hillary got absolutely owned in 2016. They were barely able to sell that shit about Biden this time around. You think they're going to be able to sell that shit again in 4 years when people are 4 years worse off? No. Look, like, the Democrats have a really hard task ahead of them. And I don't envy them, but it's not my problem. And their task is they have to beat Trump, but they also have to beat the left. Because if you are a Democrat, leftists make you mad because they are a constant reminder that you don't actually stand for the things that you say you stand for. If you are a liberal, right, then you go around and you tell people that I'm for universal health care, or I'm for ending the wars, or I'm for paying for people's college, right? And then when you run for office, or when you get elected, people say, hey, can we have those things? Because we elected you. Or we want to elect you. Can we have those things? As soon as you are in a position to do those things, you have to say things like, well, we're trying, but we just can't negotiate with the Republicans, because you are not willing to take radical action to get what you want. You're not willing to go to the mat. You're not willing to be rude. You're not willing to violate the norms or whatever to get what you want. So you have to say things like, well, the Republicans are really difficult to work with. They're intransigent, and we can't get anything done. And this is a do-nothing Congress, blah, 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 blah. Or you have to say things like, well, we'd love to do it, but how are you going to pay for it? There's just no way that we can pay for it. We got a huge national debt, blah, 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 blah. You have to do those things because that's your ideology. Your ideology is that you can meet somewhere in the middle with the Republicans who are insane. And your idea is, I'm going to meet them somewhere in the middle. Which automatically sets you up to get nowhere because you're negotiating with insane people. And then you've got somebody like me, or like Bernie, or like AOC that's standing over there going, hey, remember when you said we could have healthcare, motherfucker? Remember when you said we could stop doing this endless war bullshit? Can we do that now, please? Instead of you arguing about Russia and impeaching this dude because he, talked to a Russian once? Or a Ukrainian or something? Can you give us the shit that we voted for you for? You said all this soaring shit. Mr. Obama, Mr. Biden, Mrs. Clinton, Mr. Clinton, Mrs. Pelosi, Mr. Schumer. Like, we voted for your ass. We put you in a position to get the things that you said we should have, and you are not giving them to us. And you're just giving us a bunch of excuses about how you have to negotiate with Republicans and shit. And so if you're a liberal, you have to hate leftists. Because they keep reminding you that your shit isn't working, that you're not, that it's a failed project. So the Democrats have the job of fighting Donald Trump and the right, like I said, actual crazy people, and they have to have conversations like, yeah, I'm sorry that my son did cocaine once, or I'm sorry that my son's a cokehead, or whatever. And they find themselves in these insane trenches of just like, who has the more beautiful wife or whatever the fuck, like these insane conversations with Trump, because he's not there to discuss policy. He's there to discuss insanity. He's there to just make it as much of a spectacle as humanly possible, because if it's a spectacle, he wins. And so Biden is forced to negotiate that minefield, to navigate that minefield. Then meanwhile, he has to pander to people who aren't hardcore on the Trump train, but are Republicans. And therefore, because they're going to vote down ballot Republican, they're just going to go ahead and tick the box for Trump, because that keeps their hold on the court, that keeps their hold on the legislature, that keeps everything nice and tight. Right? And so you have to go and get those people by saying things like, I don't want to defund the police, or saying things like, I don't stand for the Green New Deal, even after saying 5 seconds earlier that the Green New Deal would pay for itself if we ever instituted it. And then having to walk it back immediately and say you don't like it. You say those things because you're trying to get suburban Republicans who might still vote all the way down the ballot Republican, but then go, fine, I'll vote for Joe Biden. Donald Trump's an asshole. And then you have to navigate completely dry fucking the left as hard as you possibly can without losing so many voters that it costs you the election. And hoping that the bluff that you're calling on them, which is like, if you don't vote for me, then we're descending into fascism. Hoping that that bluff that you're putting on them won't get called. Like hoping that you can be shitty to them so as to distance yourself from them, but not shitty enough to where they'll be like, you know what, fuck you, I'm not going to vote for you. That's a difficult job, man. That's a lot of balls in the air. Whereas, had you put Bernie up there, and I'm sorry, like, we haven't talked about this very much on the stream, so I'm going to hit it a little bit. Had you put Bernie up there, yeah, we would have seen the baboon that came from the White House to do that debate last night and just went on and on and on and on and on like a wild animal. And frankly came off as just a jerk. And I know that sounds lame, but like, that's what Americans care about, is like, are you a guy I would want to have a beer with? Basically. Which is an insane way to do politics, but we're insane. And you would have had someone else who was saying, look, this guy's a clown. I don't give a shit what he has to say. He has, like, yeah, he's the president, but he doesn't contribute to society. This motherfucker hasn't paid taxes in 15 years. So in my view, this guy has nothing to say about shit. And what we're going to do is Medicare for all, free college, get the COVID shit under control, and take care of everybody's COVID costs. We're going to make sure the vaccine is free. We're going to make sure that kids can go back to school, because we're going to generate so much personal protective equipment that we're going to be drowning in it. We're going to increase teacher pay because they're on the front lines of this shit. We're going to institute a universal basic income where people can make some money so that they can stay home and be safe until we get this thing mitigated. We're going to institute contact tracing. We're going to bring the troops home and stop spending just an insane amount of money on wars. As Commander-in-Chief, I have unilateral power to do that. These are arguments that could have been made. But no. The Democratic Party was very clear. This is how you win. This is how you beat Trump. They were very clear. But you know what Trump did anyway last night? That I was told would happen to Bernie, and it would be the nail in his coffin. We would lose everything and turn the country over to the orange fascist if Bernie got on that stage and Trump called him a socialist. I've watched the debate twice now. Trump called Biden a socialist 10, 15 times. And you know why it doesn't land? Because it's nonsense. And everybody knows it's nonsense. And again, the American people aren't stupid. They get treated like they're stupid. They get treated like all they care about is like what I just said. Who do I want to have a beer with? They get treated like everything should be reality TV and a big spectacle and the Celebrity Apprentice and shit. But in reality, they know about the issues. If you take 5 seconds to explain to people what they're voting for and why they should vote for it, we would have a radically different democracy. But it is very clear that the Democrats are not interested in doing that. And so that leaves me to believe one of two things. One, they don't want to win. And by that I mean they would rather be in a position of opposition to an insane person so that they can continue to fundraise like crazy off of every crazy thing that Trump says. They can continue to control the media narrative. And they can continue not being responsible for improving people's material lives. They can just keep going on TV and being like, the Republicans are really hard to work with. Sorry, we can't do it. So that's option one. Option two is they don't want people to know. They are looking at this as like, if you give people anything, Medicare for all, free college, any of this stuff, if you actually start to make that stuff possible and you put it into the mind of people that they can actually get something out of society from paying their taxes, that they can actually get a benefit like healthcare or education, like an actual benefit of value, not just shitty roads and shitty schools and bombs. No, something of actual value to their everyday lives. If you allow people, if you allow that to happen, then you've opened the Pandora's box. You've opened the Pandora's box of, oh shit, what do I do? Now we can get stuff? We can actually get material benefits from the government? Like, I can pay my taxes and see where that's going? It doesn't just fall into a big giant black hole in the middle of the Pentagon? Or go to some consultant firm that's telling Joe Biden to say things like, you're the worst president in U.S. history. No, I actually get things like healthcare or education, or I don't have to send my kid off to war for him to make $18,000 a year and get his leg blown off. What? Because as soon as you loosen that ratchet, people start to have an imagination. They start to go, wait, hold on. If we can have healthcare, then we can have maternity leave. And if we can have maternity leave, then we can have vacation time. These are all things that other organized countries have. We don't. And as soon as you open the door to getting one thing, then people are going to be like, well, wait, hold on. So you can just do this? This is the reason that the Democrats underwrote or subsidized COBRA for people instead of extending Medicaid to anybody affected by coronavirus. Because if you extended Medicaid to anybody affected by coronavirus, then people are going to go, wait, why can't you extend Medicaid to people who have cancer? Why can't you extend Medicaid to the citizens of Flint, Michigan? Why can't you extend Medicaid to people who have the flu? I don't understand. Why is coronavirus so special? We could just do it with anything. And then the wheels start to fall off the wagon very quickly, because people start to think, wait, well, if we can do that, then why does my kid have to pay for school lunches? That's crazy. That should be part of my tax dollars. Oh, wait, but if that is, then why am I paying extra these insane tuition fees for my kid to go to a state school that's 100% funded by the public anyway? And it's supposed to be a nonprofit institution. Wait, hold on. Now that I'm sending my kid to get an education, oh, holy shit, why doesn't my kid have health care? Oh, my kid should have health care, right? My kid should have, I should be guaranteed a actual 40-hour work week. My kid should make a living wage at the bookstore where he works during college so that he can actually afford to live somewhere. on his own, or pay some bills, or save some money, or buy a car, or whatever. Or pay his own little bit of tuition, or whatever the hell. Once you open that box, you can't close it back up again. And so those are the only two options that I can imagine would have pushed the Democrats in this direction. Because there is no electoral math, there is no study, there is no data, there is no facts surrounding the idea that you have to run somebody who will tack to the right to get some sane Republicans who are more loyal to country than party. Which, where the fuck are they at when if they're not working for the Lincoln Project? Mitt Romney's gonna vote for the Supreme Court nomination. You're a big giant resistance hero, Mitt Romney. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he's voting for the fucking Supreme Court nomination. How'd that work out? Believing Republicans. How'd that work out for you? It's a nonsense strategy. And for every bit of no data that there is to show that it works, there's a bunch of data that shows it doesn't, i.e. the 2016 election. Bernie would have won then, Bernie would have won now, and if Bernie would have won then, we would all have health insurance now. And we would have had health insurance going into a global pandemic. So, not my problem. I was told not to worry about it. I was told we got this. So. Woo! So yeah, that was the debate. Anyway. That was a good way to start the morning. Y'all have a great day, and forget about the debates. They don't mean anything. There's no data that shows they're going to affect anything at all. They're purely bred in circuses for our entertainment while Rome burns. So, stay safe. Stop thinking about politics now.